Okay, so good evening, everyone. So we are back with another analysis session, and today with me I have Jijo sir. So when we started with the countdown mock analysis, we had I had his presence actually, but unfortunately he could not join us for the last 2 weeks, including All India mock. But he is back now in action. So once again, good evening, everyone. And now, as you can see on the screen, it's around 45, 46 days left for the CLAT examination. Today, it's what, 16th of October? Your exam is scheduled on 1st of December, and I hope all of you remember that this year is not just about CLAT and ALT. This year is also about SLAT, which is happening on 13th and 15th of December. So three of your major exams, the biggest of the exams, will get over in December itself, and you'll have your results even for by December itself. Actually, so you know which law school you are going to next year. And okay, I don't know it's a welcome scenario or not, because then you those who could not unfortunately make it to the national universities, they had the opportunity to prepare well for the symbiosis, having learned about the mistake. But that's okay. I think there's not much of a difference between the two papers. It's all about adaptability. It's all about writing the mocks, and you adapt to them actually. So yes, by now we do know as well that the timeline for the closure of the application has been extended. So now the CLAT application will get closed on 22nd of October. So they have given an extension of 1 week. So just a quick reminder to each one of you: by any chance you missed out for any reasons, I don't understand. You should have done that, but okay, if by any chance it has happened, do in fact complete your application and submit it. And you must and those who have already submitted, check your mailbox. If there was any issue regarding your application, they are trying to send mail. I have received one regarding my photograph. This is a photograph I have given to them so last 5 years, but suddenly they have said that it is not recognizable. So they've asked me to change that. So they are doing taking those steps to ensure that students do not miss out actually. Admit card कब तक आएगा? Admit card hopefully 15th November को आएगा. So that's the timeline I believe. They'll be coming out with the admit card so that you can plan your travel accordingly if the exam is not in your city. So with that, let's go ahead. Good evening, everyone. So I can see some of the familiar names out here.
This is
Once
yeah.
again, welcome. And Jijo, we can start with the session.
Yeah. So this is like the 11th. Huh? I think this number is 11. So they have
Yes.
already had 11, and then I'm sure that the people have taken so many of those prime clat as well. So
Yeah,
at
yeah.
this point in time, we are end up saying the same thing, and then people are doing the same thing every single time. It just doesn't make any sense. So we have got 46 days for you to change. I want to actually start off with sort of this idea, sort of this idea. One perspective that I want to share is that there are, let's say, about 50,000 people taking the test. Right? Now, if my rank happens to be 50,000, what's going to happen to me? Nothing, right? I mean, it's crazy. Nothing happens. But the fact is, there are about 1,500 seats. I'm saying unreserved seat. I'm a total of 1,500 seats, maybe about slightly more than that. Now, if my rank happens to be 1,501, and the seat is 1,500, what's going to happen to me? Nothing. These two scenarios, one and the same. I mean, there is no point. It just doesn't make any sense preparing for the CLAT for a rank of 3,000. It just doesn't make sense. Unless, of course, you are trying to look at other schools which accept the CLAT scores. But it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, here again, the last time when I met, I saw cases where students are getting like some 70 in readings, which is English, logic, and legal put together 70 score, but their math score is zero. I mean, we are 46 days and we are going to behave like this even now. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so anyway, so let me just go through this particular paper. We'll talk about the score overview, the section insights, and this has to be 11, sorry, and uh, and the strategies. So we'll start with so this is a graph that you've seen quite often. Just want to get a sense in terms of what is the kind of score. This is adjusted, so these papers were out of 150. We convert that to 120, so it just took 80% of the score. So there are cases when the let's say getting into the top school is about 70s. It could be even 80s. It could be even the 90s. So where this paper was, if I look at the countdown CLAT in terms of this is the percentile rank. and this is sort of the score. You see that if I kind of look at this is obviously based on the people of at least the people who have taken the test or the data that we have at this present point in time, but it is clearly a good indication in terms of what is that we are sort of looking at. So if I take about 97%, that's the 97 percentile score. So that particular point that seems to be sort of very close to about 95ish, right? That's where so that's kind of where sorry okay. Okay, so that's kind of where the sort of the score is. This is likely the point where you have the top two happening, right? And I believe that this is somewhere here at about 70, 75th percentile. This particular point here, somewhere here, is where you are. The school is going to be over. All the sort of the 22, how much of an NLU is here, would be probably in this particular range, right? So anyone who's kind of getting a score less than that, you have to reflect on what is that, why you got a particular score, and what is the thing that you got to do to push your score. I will still have time. I mean, 45 days is still a lot of time. But I don't know how many hours students put in terms of preparation every day. I don't know what Amitendra would know better. Kitna hours people are able to put in every day for their preparation?
So it varies accordingly, as we know. So some people are putting around 3 hours, 4 hours. Then there are students who are putting 6, 7 hours as well. Then a lot of them are even spending 3 to 4 hours on GK actually. So that's the case. Now, how
Yeah,
much improvement can I make over here at this point of time? That's something which they have to think of.
so even if let's say look at something like
Average five if I take, then still it's 225 hours.
so this we are looking at looking at that is something I think 6, 7 hours we are able to put in. You are still looking at a good 300 hours that is there that is there with us, right? The good way to look at it is that okay, so whatever happened in the past happened. If I sort of look at from today, what is the best or the best that I can do? So a lot of places you have the boot camp is also happening or about to happen, and I'm sure that just don't give up and keep fighting, irrespective. Sort of even let's say you are somewhere here, right? To kind of get into this particular bracket, we are looking at sort of improvement of about 20, 30 marks, right? So you want to improve. Some of you would want to look at improvement of 30 marks. Some of you want to look at improvement 20 marks. So whatever it is, my suggestion is to ensure that not to give up and put in the effort. So this is a percentile rank versus the scores. So please note that these are graded individually. So these are individually. For example, if I pick up so something like English, so that section English is separate. If you add all of these together, it doesn't. It gives much more than that. There is not a summation of it. So individual. So overall score. If I put overall score in the descending order, this where it is, right? So there are people who are getting full everywhere. I'm not saying these are the same students who are getting full everywhere, but there are some people who are able to get the total amount of score. This seems to be the case where if I look at the scores, if I consider something like a 90, if I, for example, consider the 95th percentile, right? If we're able to get individually 95 percentile in every single every single section, if I add all of this together, the total will be about 98. Will probably be here. The total will be about 98 marks. So if I kind of look at here here in this particular case, you've seen people are able to get somewhere 18 to 20 would be kind of a good score when it comes to English. Seems to be the case. 18 to 19 is a good score when it comes to some logic. The legal has been like. Is it the case often that legal is high scoring for most of the kids? Is that what's
Yeah, it
happening?
is. It is. It
Uh-huh.
is. It is. So, and they spend a lot of time on legal actually. So that they believe it's quite interesting actually, and they spend a lot of time. Other than GK, that's one section where a lot of time is spent by the kids actually, and
So
that
if I
reflects.
also if I look at from here to here, so like even though there are total number of sort of 32 marks, right? This is like a 6 marks difference, right? From somebody who is the top score to the 80th percentile, so top 20 percentage. When I look at the score level here, that's a 10 marks gap, right? So that's sort of the story of. Uh, legal. Then your maths. At least this time around, what I've seen in maths is the last time when I met, no, I think I remember about 56% of the students was getting 0 marks, right?
Oh,
So
let me
this
let me share the data for the last one. All India mock CLAT itself, the number was almost similar.
okay, at least this time when I look at the data, 37 percentage was 0 marks. I think there is people, at least people attempting. Here again, I could see something like even the 80th percentile rank is about 5. So here again, people are able to get almost every single question correct. And GK is sort of very surprising to see this. So you had, so when you look at 80th percentile, so you cannot absolutely compare this 80th percentile with the 50,000 people taking the test. Now, if I actually look at 80th percent, it's the top 20 percentage of 50,000. No, top 20 percentage of 50,000 will be what, 10,000 of them, right? So it's like that's sort of the story. I mean, you probably will not be. So if this was the actual CLAT, there might be a significant number, definitely more than about the 3,000, 4,000 students would have got a score more than 20. So here, if you actually in GK, if you did not get a score of 20, it's going to be a problem. So this is where you can look at your target. So if you want to analyze some sort of a gap, no, so you can look at wherever your score is individual section, right? You want to keep this as a target score around this range. You can count this 20, 19, 29, 11, and 24, and sort of look at this gap here that you want to fill. And obviously, while filling the gap, I'm guessing that you're doing proper analysis. You are redoing all the question once again without looking at the solution, which is very important. So because then you will get to know what is your actual sort of your basic, what I call as your OCAD score, like your OCAD score in the sense that what is your potential score. So before you actually look at a solution, so then you can understand this gap. So this sort of is target that you need. So where we wanted to be here is probably in sort of the 90s is where I want to be. So if I sort of extrapolate this to what is, if this was a CLAT, what is very likely, there could be a plus minus 3 to 4 marks here. So there is no, this prediction is sort of based on this. Here is sort of a paper where you would probably need, so if you want to get at least the top colleges, right? You want to get a score which is sort of more than 80. So if let's say you have to get definitely the 80 plus to get at least the sort of top colleges. And if you want to look at something like 80s, what is, and it's quite possible. So I think that if I look at these reading, just the reading score itself, when I look at reading, I can actually see it's easy. I think something like 65 was 65 would have been sort of amazing. And again, if you look at these two things, if you're able to get and if you're able to pick up here, so you could actually see something like a 25 to 30 happening from here. So you really want to look at what is that you can do in the next 45 days, sort of a push your score. Like it can't be legal. I'm saying I'm sure that you can't push legal. Where will you push legal to what to what? Where will you push it? I think that those of you are not doing well, my gut feeling is that it will be either a story of maths and GK. That's my feeling. Yeah, Mitendra. So is that it?
Completely agree. In fact, so if you look at the score, when I'm sure you have seen the data based on which you have done this. So there are people who are like they have to be just consistent, but there is a lot of gap between for a lot of students actually. And I think it's all about how they look at the reading section. This is going to be a game changer for them. They'll always have a scope over here because GK, they need to understand while the effort has to be there, no doubt about that. GK, you will have to put your effort because unlike other section that requires a lot of information to be carried to the examination hall, you have to work through that. But at the end of the day, please understand, getting a 25 out of 28 is going to be a difficult one. I mean, it has to be nearly next level of preparation where which can take you to 25 out of 28. So the scope will always remain in the reading section for them and QT as usual. Well, despite all those nudges and everything, you say 37% of the students scored zero. But that is also a point of worry because people are not attempting that. That is a problem out there actually. सो आई थिंक दे हैव टू वर्क ऑन दिस. तो सिर्फ जीके करने से गेम नहीं चेंज होगा या सिर्फ लीगल करने से गेम नहीं चेंज होने वाला है. वहां पर एक लिमिटेड स्कोप है. जीके का अपना प्रॉब्लम है. लीगल में दे आर ऑलरेडी इनटू द गेम. सो योर the improvement majorly will come from English, logic, and QT, and they have to attempt QT by anyhow actually, and then only they'll see that improvement happening, and of course that will reflect on the results overall.
Yeah, you're right. So I'm saying that if I'm able to get, I think that if I put a number, right, at least for this test, if I want to put a number, these two put together, right? If I look at a number which is 25, right, and these three put together, if I look at a number which is 65, these 65. So if I look at 65 plus 25, that's 90. So
90.
even for example, it's quite possible for some of you to kind of have this story, which means let's look at scenario here. It's quite possible. Let's say that these two being here, let's say I pick up the score here, I pick up something like this to get the 25. It is also possible that I could get something like a 30, and then let's say the 50. This kind of situation is also possible, right? To get to the score which is here, right? This also possible. So it is not necessary that you have to be there. So, but if the significant advantage that you have, so even if let's say QT is something like a 12 marks. So let's assume that you are currently at 20, right? You put in a lot of effort and you're currently getting a score which is 18 to 20. In GK, if you want to push your score, getting into 25 out of 20, it will be very difficult. I mean, the amount of effort that you have put will chance to be substantial. But here, getting from a 5 to 10, this amount of effort that you have to put in QT is not that substantial. So, wherever the point is, I don't know at what level you are here. So some of you may at this point in time, it's still very important that you kind of try to push your scores. Okay, I want to so let me actually start with the reading section. And so when this paper, so obviously this all these mocks are getting created and then getting printed, right? So there is a sort of a delay in terms of when the questions are created, and then it gets reviewed and it gets printed and it's get delivered. So there is sort of a delay in terms. It's not if it was an online test, somebody could have designed a question, let's say this week, and give it to you. There's a delay. I can tell you when sort of this paper was designed. This paper was designed. Remember when the so the first sample paper came out, the weird-looking sort of sample paper came out, and the sample paper had a lot of these sort of logic question, which was framed in a fashion which is like framed like, okay, so there are three statements that is given, and options are like, okay, 1 and 2 are inferences, 2 and 3 are inferences, 3 and 4, a lot of these questions. So the logic of this particular section reflects that, right? So here and here you had a logic which was 6 plus 6 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. So usually you had logic which is 6 times 4 is 24. You had more number of sort of logic passages. The second thing that I also noticed here is that if you look at the logic, it's about hardly about 200 words to 100 to 200 words. So the passage was not very long, right? Even when you look at English here, it was not very long at all. So none of the reading passages were long. Even this was about sort of 200 wordish, 200 300 word maximum. So it and if I look at legal again, the legal, each of the passages were about sort of 300 words. And what could have happened, even if there is a number of questions here, was number of passages that you had to read was slightly higher. Overall, it was possible for you to do all this reading section in decent time, right? It was possible for you to do. You had, I think, which was the reason as to why. This is what I believe, that this is my gut feeling. I'm not too sure. The reason why I see this QT score, because one of these questions required a little bit of calculation. Is not so some people have to sort of put some thought into it. But if you spend time, you could have got you could have solved all the questions. But I believe that this particular test, you got the time. So eventually, the game changer would have been maths, right? So let me start with sort of English. What happened? So English here, one of the things that you sort of seen this. I'm sure that by now you know what this graph is. This is percentage of students attempt the particular question, and out of it, this is percentage of students who got the question correct. Anything above 70%, I'm calling it easy. 40 to 60, I'm calling it medium, and then less than 40, I'm calling it hard. Though you could say easy to medium. So this would be probably something that is easy to medium level, and this would be sort of a medium level. Okay, so you The first thing that I want to say is this first passage, this would have been slightly different than what you encountered. This was a passage which is asking about vocabulary and grammar. It had question on grammar and vocabulary. This passage has it is so you might say, sir, I've never seen CLAT asking any passage like this. You could probably say that, but if you actually one of the old first of all, we don't know what CLAT is going to do. For last year, for the first time in logic, they asked decision making question, so we don't know what CLAT is going to do. Second of all, during one of the earlier sample paper, such a passage was here. So this kind of challenged the people a bit. Uh, and it's kind of challenge. You could actually see that one of these questions came in, cutting down. The second thing was most of these passages were actually taken from journals, and a lot of you would have struggled with this third passage on love. And this was a passage because the way in which the options were created uh, was sort of crazy. So even with this, so so if I look at this, the last passage on India, this was possible to get probably all the six questions correct. I mean, somebody is good. Here it was kind of possible. I don't know why these are silly errors that is made. So let's say it was quite possible to get, here is quite possible to get about 5% correct. Here is quite possible to get about, let's say, another 5. Here I believe that this would have been the case. So it's about 16, 10, 16, 19. That's, I think, the 19 and 18 story. But when that's sort of the 1980 story, you can actually see, in fact, at some of the lower these percentile levels, right? You see that your English is lower than logic, which happens, which sort of rarely would have happened. I think it had to do with this passage, and you probably will have your issue. Where is that passage? Okay, not this one. Okay, I need to open this. So where is it? Okay, the I think you have a genuine crib you can make here, because they say each sentence is counted. 1, 2, 3, 4 was actually missing. So 5, 6, 7. So you can have genuine count. There was, in fact, one of the question that says 4. The 4 is anyway not there only. So this could have eliminated, but a lot of people have answer choice A and B. Okay. So this the second passage was fine. I think people struggled in terms of a few questions here. Uh, and this, I think this is a passage where you had a lot of trouble, especially the last question. You just I think that it's you, this particular question number 6, in fact, question number 5, in fact, I think it was painful. All these questions were painful. I tell you what, right? So one other thing that if, for example, let's say, so that imagine there's a passage that is given, okay, and options are created based on the passage, right? Whatever is in the passage, the option should reflect that. No, whatever the correct answer should reflect that option. So imagine, I'm going to use a little bit of maths. If the passage says like A is greater than B, and the option is also saying A is greater than B, this sort of very direct comprehension. So let's say it's like saying that whatever is written in the particular passage is given in the option. Okay. So this is, so this says that A is greater than B. The only change is that A is bigger than B. Okay, so that kind of essentially making minute changes in terms of how the information is given to us, and this is usually that something you would correct. But if given that A is greater than B, another level to sort of create option is to write B is less than A. Okay, this requires sort of one level of comprehension to get this question correct. The third level, where somebody says A is greater than B, is to write that A is not equal to B, which is also a true statement. This requires a comprehension. I think some of the things that has happened in many of these questions that you struggled is where you had things given in that case. For example, if I look at, I'm just picking one question here. Where is that? Okay, so let's take for example this particular passage here, and let's say for example this question, that what does the author mean by deficient mode? So all we have in this particular passage is saying that where is the passage saying? It's saying that thus we might understand the sort of love in issue number 4 to be roughly a matter of caring about a person as the person she is for everyone's sake. Accordingly, 3 may be understood as a kind of deficient mode of the sort of love we typically reserve for persons. So 3 here is identified as I love my cat, right? Or this is like I love my wife. So this is identified. This is a care that we give it to a person. This is the care that we give it to something that other than person, but we still care. So this care about the person, and this care is considered to be division. That's all there is. Okay. Now in this particular question, we had to deal with which is the option, right? And here is where I think nothing, none of this answer choice is exactly using the word care at all. None of the answers are using the word care at all. So here is where you have to test in terms of how did you comprehend. So if you kind of read this passage very fast, you might miss these things. You could then say, okay, fine, appreciation of worth, obviously not about worth. So worth is the worth is talking about maybe something about somewhere else. Intention of the love is not the case. This talks about expression. Nobody's talking about how they're expressing love, but it would be probably emotional depth in terms of caring would be a part of emotion, and that sort of is the answer. So again, this was an issue, and here again you have. I think what was I kind of want to show something. This particular question, 75% got the question answer correct, which is answer choice number A. Okay, because they eliminated this very clearly. This particular question, which of the following is a likely source from which it is taken? The answer is B. And only about, I think about 20% got this, 20-30% got this question correct. Many of you went for this one, the typology and psychology. Now, answering this question would require some sort of interpretation. That's like saying A is greater than B, A is not equal to B. The only sort of hint that I have is that scholarly accounts of love focus on something. This is talking about scholars. You don't have psychology scholars, no. You have philosopher scholars. This is talking about how love is defined. What is love? It is nothing to do with psychology. But then, if let's say somebody answered question number 6 correctly, which is by elimination, which says the fourth kind of love is unique, that involves caring for another person. It had for its own sake compose ethical and philosophical question. Now this is like 75% if you mark this answer correctly. 75%. You could have got this hint of philosophical and then sort of bend and answer this particular question as well. So just saying. You have to sit and analyze. I've recorded solution to this. This passage was fine. So one of the things that I wanted to take is this particular test for English. I truly believe that will be sort of a great learning for you. So what I really want you to do is, I don't know, by now you would have had a lot of time with this. Every single time whenever you have, after a particular test, no, what is very natural for you to check the answers. You should not do it. Before checking the answer, it is very, very important for you to redo the question once again. Then only the true learning will happen. So you look at these questions. If you made mistake, how to avoid these kind of mistakes. So this particular one is going to give you sort of good learning. Here again, if you, how do you navigate some sort of a surprise that is given in English? So that sort of is English. If I go to logic, was, I mean, all the questions of logic, I think I struggled in logic. No, so you had a lot of these issues with respect to some of these questions. And a lot of the issues, I believe, with the question was because of how these options were framed. And this was the sample papers. So where is logic? Logic will be somewhere here, no? Towards the end.
85 onwards.
85. I think this is logic. Okay. So you typically expect questions like these. No? You typically accept questions like these at 4 options, and you know that only one option is correct. So you simply look at eliminating. And here you would probably say it is like comparison. Somebody is making a comparison to music, to DNA, to primates and stuff. You're making an analogy. You could sort of mark this question and move on, right? And even for example, but when it comes, even this question was still manageable. So when you have statements that is given, and then you ask which of the following assumption is valid, this is problematic. At least here is fine. So 1 to 4 means 3 is not valid. 2, 3, 4 means 1 is not valid. 1 to 4 is 3 is not valid. This 2, 1 to 4. No, I think that there's a mistake here. Okay. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, none is sort of valid. Okay. Why is that? Why is the 2 options seen the same? I don't know. Okay. Sort of. I think there's an error. So Questions like these is problem. So when you have options, the four options that is given, right, A, B, C, D, answer which of the following is inferred from the passage. You know that only one answer is correct. In this particular case, you're evaluating each one of them. You're not looking at which is the best inference that is being made, and you're sort of bound to make mistakes from here. And this is a question that sort of, which of the following are reliable inference that can be drawn? And many of you obviously decided that this is not an inference. This is not an inference. How is an inference? Understanding musical tradition requires valuing depth rather than breadth. So you have to go deep inside and not randomly do a lot many things. And if you kind of read this particular sentence, is the key to quality music is to blend an intense set of influence that you understand inside and out. So you have to focus on things that you understand, but do that inside and out. So that means that the depth is more important. So I think most of the problems that happen or the challenges that would have happened here would be to do with. So I can actually show. Let me just quickly. I was okay here. I think that this has got logic. Okay, this has got the issue with every single question. So, for example, this particular question, people navigated very cleanly. This particular question was not a problem. So there you go. So you have this issue. No? Immediately you start having this issue of a question wherein when it was framed like this, it had a problem. This is like what percentage mark answer choice number one, what percentage mark answer choice number two, three, and four. You will see this video solution tomorrow. Again, the same issue. We only had 41% accuracy in this question when you frame like this. This question immediately, its story is very different, 89% accuracy. Also, it was very easy to eliminate. If I go to the sort of next passage in crisis, this was about 58% accuracy. I don't know, this is a silly mistake that people would have made. Say 58% would be like easy to medium. Almost all this majority watchmen got this question correct. Immediately when the question is framed like this. And which is the assumption, it sort of went down. And given the fact that, and I could see this across, the issue. So this was fine. So look at here. Here, when the question is framed in the usual manner, we got all these are very high accuracy, 67%. Smartphone also, and so I don't know. See, look at this, right? Which of the following can be reasonably inferred? So this is like one only, neither. So intelligence irrelevant to financial success in marketplace. That is too extreme, right? Okay. So there you go. So I don't think that we have exposed you too much in terms of that kind of framing of questions. We have not exposed. And if you kind of look at the mocks, many of this question comes sort of very the sort of very straightforward question. These question where the statement is given and multiple stuff is given, that might be a sort of a new challenge that we need. So we'll still have some more mocks. So some of the future mocks, we will sort of ensure that you get access to answering such kind of question a little more, right? The framing is what I think was the issue here, right? That framing, that way of making the question framing, I think was an issue. Otherwise, it's like all very standard logic listening questions, right? This is something that you've done over and over again. You know what assumptions are, you know what inference is, strengthening questions, weakening questions, right? So there's a very, very proper logical listening question. I think that is sort of one learning. So you can revisit those questions again and pick up, accept the answer, right? So you don't fight with the answer, accept the answer is the right answer, right? And then reflect on, and so sort of what you should do now. So one of the things that happens, one of the things that stops us from improving ourselves is we're not accepting that we made a mistake, right? So it happens quite a lot, right? So for example, we have options A, B, C, D. This is what you marked. You marked B. Answer is C. But you're not convinced. And you're not convinced, you're asking teachers, you're asking a lot of many people, you're asking your friends, you're saying that, okay, this question is a bad question, and you're not convinced. and you're convinced, you just leave the confusion and move on. How is it help you? You don't know whether you are right or whether no correct answer is right. How does that help? How is the situation helped you? You know, the way in which how you should deal with this situation is to say that, okay, first is you have to be a student while taking the test. When you do the analysis, no, you actually become a teacher. You wear the teacher's hat, become a teacher. When you say you become a teacher, you accept that this is the answer. You accept it, and then you try to teach yourself, saying that why you got it right. So if you don't accept the answer, no. So I mean, you don't require some explanatory answer or somebody to explain something. If you put your mind to it, you can get it. So most of the time, uh, 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 what I would say is you don't don't fight when you analyze these logic sections. Very important. Right? Don't fight. You accept the answer. You may need extra bit of explanation. The explanation may be inadequate. You probably will need some bit of explanation. You want to check with someone. Fine. But I would strongly recommend that, and then that you accept the answer and kind of teach yourself in terms of why you got it wrong. So be this is the idea of someone who's self-taught, and you got to be someone who's self-taught. I think that's something that I want you to. Right. So we have our story of legal. This is the story. Amitendra, I
Yes.
uh,
In fact, but before I go to the legal part, Jijo, in fact, what you said, that if there are such kind of questions when you talk about logic, and you also mentioned when this paper was created, while they they took this thing, they removed that sample paper which they had released. They released another one. See, I've already done a session with these guys on YTI and going that I don't consider, because a sample paper should reflect the entire scheme of things over
correct.
there. So they are
Hmm.
putting one section at a time, and then GK was abrupt once again. Actually, first you don't give anything, then suddenly no mention about legal and all. But then please understand, I also believe in the fact that it is the inconsistency which is very consistent there actually. So you can't say that okay, the sample paper था तो वैसे ही आएगा नहीं आएगा, you don't know. So these surprises become very, very important. And as at the beginning, Jijo mentioned, see, if you look at next 45 days, and if even if you put up 5 to 6 hours, and there are a lot of opportunities still out there. So it's possible there would be days. I'm sure each one of you, those who are in school, not retaking, you are taking it for the first time, you will have your Diwali breaks for at least for 3 days, not more than that. So in that 3 days, you can up it to 10 hours, even 5 hours की जगह 10 hours कर सकते हैं. So there is a scope of 250 to 300 hours, and that's good enough time, provided what Jijo spoke for last 30 minutes, if you are able to capture that and you have captured that essence of it, I think the game will still change. There's a lot of scope out there. Now coming to legal. Now legal, I think the students have been, I think both mantra they have got it actually. So most of them, especially the people who are topping the top 100, they have understood the mantra. Now please understand, when it is about legal, you have to look at in the current context. If you look at the legal in the new pattern of the examination last 5 years paper, if you have not seen, please see that once again. It's always a mix of current and static actually. So current legal developments, something which is there in news, and this is what was there in the mock. So I would treat passage 4 over here, which was about contract, more to do with the promise part of the contract, as something which was static actually. But other than that, all the other passages, if you look at, whether it was the first one which was about Prevention of Money Laundering Act, PMLA, it
Let's
was talking about actually. Yeah.
one second. Let me just. This would be. This is legal. Na, this one.
53 years, yeah.
This is
So
Arvind
this,
Kejriwal story.
yes. So this is the first one, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, of course, you look at a CM being in the jail, coming out, giving his throne to somebody else. Actually, now this passage, if you look at, this is important from both GK as well as legal perspective. So this is current legal development perspective as well as general knowledge. So the question, this could be a part of the general knowledge section itself. So Kejriwal has been in news for some time. Actually, came out, start giving ideas to the newly appointed JNK government. Actually, ki, okay, I'll tell you how to run a semi-state actually, kind of things. So this has always been new. And in that context, when we talk about Manish Sisodiya, when we talk about Kejriwal, I think all over the last 6 months, we have, you have, even if you have not heard about it earlier, you would have definitely heard about PMLA, the Money Laundering, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So it was a current affairs topic. The questions were pretty straightforward, and that reflects on the data as well. So I don't think this posed any of sort of challenge. Passes to some students definitely would have, because IPR is something which not many people are very much interested in actually. So some इसमें इंग्लिश में अगर थोड़ा सा भी फिलोसफी का पैसेज आ जाता है, they start like, oh yeah, philosophy is difficult. It has always been difficult, even without reading it. I think, and that goes to some extent when it comes to the IPR for those who might be in that average range actually. But IPR is again is something which is very much in news all the time, isn't it? So it's always there in the news when you talk about copyright, you talk about intellectual property rights. A lot of cases out there actually. You have that Amul story, you have Infosys case, and today courts are talking about the personal rights basically as a trademark. So I'm sure you are aware about some of the celebrities going to court and getting injunctions done for those who are copying their voice or the acts actually. So today courts even recognize personality right of a person actually, and this is all over the news actually. In the current context of AI and copyright, that becomes very very important. Artificial intelligence के वक्त की बात कर रहे हैं. GI into consideration, because GI is again about trademark actually. Tirupati Laddu is in news at this point of time. So I think if you look at this from a current legal, now the problem will be for those students who might not be reading it from both the perspective. कि GK भी हो सकता है, legal भी हो सकता है. That is something which is very very important. Third passage, I think again it was what? Freedom of speech and expression. And if you're not getting answers right, I think go back to the basics once again. You have to go back to the table, because this is one area I can't recall. Maybe out of the 5 papers held on this pattern, probably 4 of them definitely have questions on this area. This is one favorite area. Article 14 to 19 has always been a favorite area of CLAT consortium in the new pattern of the examination. So I think when we talk about freedom of speech, freedom of expression, the questions could be from constitutional perspective, like what it was here. You had from it a perspective of torts as well. So tort and IPC, Indian the penal code actually perspective becomes important. Lot is being talked about how media plays a role in everything. Judges have been speaking about defamation out there, and these are basic concepts. So getting used to learning about the current developments, at the same time your basics to be in place. Defamation अगर अभी तक capture नहीं कर पाए हो, criminal defamation or the civil defamation, then of course it clearly indicates that those who are struggling in these kind of papers, if your legal is not good, probably your basics is not in place. That is something which you have to definitely look into it. Last year देखो, earlier CLAT देखो, article 14 to 20 has always been important. I think you need to definitely work on that. Passage 4, promise, easy one. That was the only one which was more from a the last two were more from a static perspective. Contingent contract and wagering are two different things. I'm sure that has been covered in the class, and I think this is where a lot of students would have got confused. So if I look at the last 3 passages, Jijo, and from a student perspective, I'm not scoring well. Which also reflects my basics not being in place actually. So in legal, I don't think there is even a discussion required in that sense actually. So very important for those who have not done well, and you can see the graph. The graph reflects for itself actually. So except for those 1 or 2 questions, which of course you will watch the solution, which Suhasini has already given that. So please understand, if you are struggling here in this section, then of course it's all about the basics. The basics has to be done. It really helps. Even the consortium page mentions that knowledge will definitely help. While they say no prior knowledge is required, but they also mention in the next line that knowledge definitely helps. So you have to work on that, and you have enough time if you look at. We can move on to the next
Yeah.
one. I think 29, the graph itself speaks a lot. You
So
mentioned, I think you mentioned in the very first analysis when we did for Countdown Mock 2, I remember, and you mentioned this word QT, but I think ये QT से किसी को प्यार हो नहीं रहा है. मतलब for majority of them, that's the problem actually. And
yeah.
despite showing data, despite showing it so many times, in fact, even when you were not there, every Wednesday we have been showing them data to see how the accuracy and attempts are reflected over here in this particular section. The accuracy is always on the higher side. It has never been difficult, actually. I have never seen a red bar out here as far as QT is
This,
concerned.
this in fact, this is like 60% all. So
Yeah.
all these questions can be treated as easy only. So at least this is very easy. This is like easy level. So I think what the problem that a lot of you have is that is many of you now is before, let's assume that December 1 has not happened, right? CLAT has not happened, but we are deciding things today that I will not do the last 12 questions. Today we have decided. And then what is your mindset then? You want everything to come from English has to now rock. So you have to do extraordinarily well to make some sense. So you're reading percentages twice, you are doing over analysis, you are spending more time than what is required. Now, if let's say you have got what, so I think that if I look at here, right, here and if I just quickly go back, starting with the reading section and show you something, right? This is 217 words, 200 words, 205 words, 305. Let me count the number of words, right? So it's about 500, 500, this is about 900 words. All put together, there were 900 words worth of reading in English, just reading it once. And then you had logic is 200, 150, 250, then about 150, that is about, let's count this to be about 200. This is 150, that is 350, about 950. So let's count both of them together, 2000 words. Right? And then you had legal, which is roughly about 300 to 350 words. It's about the one, two, three, four, 5 passing. So 5 into the 1500. So you had all put together. So if I go back and look at this quant story, all this put together had about 3000 words to read. I'm saying reading the passage. And if you read at a pace about 150 words per minute, reading this passage would require 20 minutes. And then you're looking at all the questions and stuff. I'm saying this you could have solved these 80 questions in how many minutes? Even if let's say spend 60 minutes on questions. In this particular case, you would have knocked this out in about sort of 80 minutes, and then you had, assuming that GK would take about 10 minutes, you had with you that is 90, and then you still had what, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, sorry, 30 minutes for QT. And if you sort of decide, but if in your mind that I'm not going to solve maths, then what is going to happen is that you're going to expand your time to fit in. It's not that reading is taking more time. So a lot of people say that because English takes a lot of time. Let's do a logical reasoning statement and let me identify the flaw. Reading takes a lot of time. Therefore, I cannot solve QT. Actually, this is wrong. It is actually ulta. I have decided not to solve QT. Therefore, reading is taking more time. This is what is happening. So here, for example, if I look at this, I understand this sort of question. The first question, table analysis, was so slightly. You had to think a bit. If I go back and look at that question there, okay, where is it?
109
this 108 towards the end. No? Okay. So this particular question here, no. You had sort of this data that is given here. The sum of the missing value is 558. If the sum of the missing value is 558, add all of this together, we'll get the total value. Okay, add everything together and add 558 to it, you'll get the grand total. You've seen something which says, okay, you're saying that north and south are 21 and 25%. North and south is 20. This is 21%. This 25%. And you have got east, west, central. East, west, central. Is it 10 is to 8 is to 9? You sort of had to compare this. There's a total. Obviously, you cannot compare this directly, but you see that this is 46%. That is 46%. This has to be 54%. The total has to be 54%. This is what, 10 plus 8 plus 9. So this total is 27. So 27 correspond to 54%. So 1 correspond to 2%. So this will become 20%. This will become 16%, and this will become 18%. And you will get the total here. you will get you'll get the total. No, this you have to add all this to add all of this. It's basic addition, and you'll take some time. You'll get this total. You'll get this total. Then you'll get the total of each east, west, south, and there is only one value is missing, and you will get that. You fill it. It might take time. Okay, so understanding this, and it might take time. It might take for you to spend about, let's say, about some of you, it's about simple addition. No, there's nothing much here. Simple addition, and then it's a question of some of these questions was straight you can get, and very basic stuff. You can get this question. This second one had a little bit of linear algebra happening. The following data is following is according to the four. They got a family in Delhi, each having a different age. She was about 5 years elder to him. 34 years when his sister was born. Mother was 39. It's like so the basic algebra here, which also the reason why what I'm saying is these are stuff that does not require sort of next level, third level stuff. So for some of you, it might take time to solve, right? And what I am saying is that even if let's say you decide today, right? Today that I want to address these questions, I want to solve these questions, and if you decide in sort of in the test that I will solve it, I will solve the questions, I will solve maths. If you decide yourself they're going to solve maths, and you say that for any question in, let's say, English, reading, logic, wherever, I don't want to get stuck in a particular question, right? And I will probably have a second look at the question later. You'll always have time to do maths. You guys have to understand something. Once upon a time, there were 150 questions to be done in 120 minutes. In this 150 question scenario, old scenario, if I remember correctly, English had 7 passages, no? Sorry, 6 passages, right? English had 6 passages, logic had 6 passages, legal had 8 passages, and the number of passages for somebody to solve is so high. Even then, people used to solve math. Now, when it came down to 4 passages, about 6 passages, how is it logically possible that people come and tell me that you don't have time to do maths? It's impossible. It is just that you decided not to do maths. That's all. That's all there is to it.
It's like CBSE boards was not. So when they go and write the examination, deleted syllabus. Boss, deleted syllabus हो गया 30% हटा दिया उसके बाद भी कि हमें बहुत पढ़ना पड़ता है. So it's like you were doing it 150 question in same 120 minutes. Now 120 questions in 120 minutes, but still I don't get time. So,
yeah, so I mean, I think we can't say this anymore. I mean, it's like, so those of you are getting, so the you had in both the questions, no, the initial thing you should not be hurrying, right? You don't make any silly mistake. It's simple addition. Sometimes addition you make mistake, right? You get write all the data properly, get the answer, and then solve as many questions. Here, some of the question will probably require you to put a bit of effort. I think that there are some people definitely said, okay, I'm going to pick up, let's say, I will solve this question, which is great. And then you picked up, let's say, 3-4 questions from here. Here, let's say, as it went down, the attempt also sort of went down. Some people decide, okay, this question is made it take extra time, which is fine, right? Which is also fine. Which is fine. So you had so I would sort of recommend that you address it, you solve, you have how many mocks you have taken? Probably 25 mocks easily. Your paper is available with you. Each of the mock has got 2 sets. You already have 50 sets. At least some mock has got 3 sets. At least utna to kar lete hai na. Let's solve it and sort of get there. But I'm slightly more happy this time around to see that, at least from the last time, at least. I don't know. You talk about All India. Something 56, else happened. 56. All India also happened in that venue, right? I think that a lot of places, yes, right? Yes, no, yeah. So that when also that would have sort of changed the scenario a bit. I don't know if that was the case, and there you have it. So yeah, there you have current affairs and GK, which is like I'm not getting how people are able to crack this much, which is crazy. Okay, so.
No, in this it was all about. See, what is surprising me now when we look at question number like why the question number one is not even 100% when it comes to attempts at the same time or accuracy. Well, I think in the entire paper there could not have been anything which is so easier actually. I think matlab, anybody who's nearly into reading newspaper, and I'm sure we expect CLAT students to read newspaper every day. It's not just about GK, other purposes as well. Anybody who has read newspaper, current affairs, I think the easiest question to answer: who headed the high level committee recommending one nation, one election? And in fact, when I did the solution for this video solution, those who have watched, I have not covered any data because the problem here is you are giving the video solution, Jijo. How many of them are watching it? That's the problem. If you have watched, you have not been able to crack this passage. That is where my problem is. Because in the earlier mock, I've already covered more than what is required, more than data I have covered actually. And if anybody would have watched that video, all this six was crackable easily. मतलब
ये
इसके
ये
लिए
वाला ये वाला I actually found this is 2023 वाला एक. I don't know whether
हाँ.
the questions were I think the
So
whatever.
the questions were this, but this was very much in current context. You know,
Okay.
the Kunal Kamra case actually. So it
All
was
the
in
all
Bombay
the
High Court itself.
all the questions were of current context. I think that was that. Yeah,
So the because the Bombay High Court gave a judgment recently in September.
Oh,
So against the government of India, actually they have they have stayed that amendment which was the government had to form a fact check unit. So the government said it's unconstitutional. You are getting into the freedom of speech once again actually. So Association of Indian Magazines and Kunal Kamra along with others went to the court, went to Supreme Court, came back to the Bombay High Court. Final judgment has been given actually. So I was expecting that from the passage, if somebody saw the passage, then वो fear आ सकता है कि वो boss IT Amendment Act and all ये तो expect नहीं किया था. If I start with the question, that should not have been a problem. And okay, fine, I do understand. But then if I look at the first one nation, one election, actually nothing could have been easier. So those who have not been able to score here, I think you need to seriously look at what you can do over here. And now is the time more from a consolidation perspective. There could be a possible one odd, two odd event which might be completely new, but so far what you have covered, it's all about consolidation. There could be some continuing things happening to that particular event, but अब time आ गया है कि अब जो पिछले 6 महीने में cover किया था उसको revision के through consolidate करो, data consolidate करो. That is very very important. Geneva Convention, again from the context of the Russia Ukraine, which is ever ongoing actually. Similarly, Israel, now new parties are getting added to Israel Hamas. That is ever going. So, यहाँ पर from that perspective, I think it was important. SpaceX was definitely something which is a little bit surprising. I'm happy with the performance when we look at the fifth one. I'm really happy. There was some kind of, I would say, technical questions there, but they have done it. Those who have cracked that actually, and this is again very recent. And today, if I don't read about SpaceX because they are very much in news, one thing or the other. The other day they were in news because they had that rocket caught actually once again. So that's a new technology developed. They are the ones who will be rescuing our two astronauts stuck in ISS actually. So they have to very very important actually that you keep on doing the current affairs, but keep on कंसोलिडेशन बिकम्स वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इस समय ये सोचोगे कि जीके से गेम चेंज हो जाएगा, 8 घंटे पढ़ लेंगे, 10 घंटे बोला है सर ने तो मैं 8 घंटे से जीके करूंगा, दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू हेल्प. यू हैव टू लुक एट दैट स्कोप, बट यहाँ पर करना पड़ेगा, दैट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट.
अगर किसी का if some of your DK score is low and you have got just 40 days, right? You have to bet na. I mean that you have to do gamble. Okay? Like that nothing can be done because so many events that is there. So I can tell you a gamble. So they August, September, October, November. And, yeah, whatever is really hot topic in this particular case, get a list of. So for example, if somebody can put in about 3 hours per day. So 3 hours per day. The next we are looking at about 150 hours or 200 hours for GK if you can put in, right? And then some so October is still happening, November is still happening, right? You basically pick up from your faculty member or something what is the hot 150 sort of topic, and then focus on getting there and hope for the best. And that's sort of the best that you can do. But those of you already preparing, I think that continue sort of your preparation, right? And those of you are here, let's say about 18, 15, 18, that means that, so there are a lot many cases where you say, okay, I've read this, but I don't remember. Okay. Okay. So there will be two issues only. No, one issue is that I don't even know this. I have never read a particular. So you have got, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 topics, and with set number of questions, right? Each of them has got some number of questions. One is that there will be a case where I don't even know what this topic is, which is one problem, right? So that is like, then you have to look at what sources that you actually reading. Second is, I know the topic, but there are 2-3 questions I don't know. That's another problem. So that's a problem sort of depth. There is a problem of width, right? And almost all the topic that you see, at least in the mock, has very sort of very hot topic. It's quite, if let's say a very obscure topic is going to come in the CLAT, then majority is anyway not going to answer. So you don't have to sort of worry about trying to cover as much as possible. But I think the best bet that you can do is look at all the sort of the key idea, the key sort of stuff that is happening around, and give it a shot, right? So or I'm just putting a target. You can work and say that these two put together, I need to get as close to 30 as possible. I don't know how. I mean, this range, I want to be in 25 to 30 range, right? And if that can happen, so let's say quant, and if I count, uh, if I put quant and GK sort of one entity, and कुछ भी करके ना इन दोनों में से 25 और 30 के आसपास निकालना है. I'm talking about minimum, and then you're sort of hoping that from this English, logic, and legal, if let's say if I'm good, so this is the sort of the bare minimum that I'm saying, which means this has to be maximum. This have to get 65, 60, 65 ke aspas. Then you add these two together, then you're looking at 95-ish, right? But it cannot be a situation where both are down. It just cannot happen when here your score is 14 and your score is 2. That just cannot happen. That just can't happen. It is can't happen where here your score is 20 and here your score is 0. Just can't happen. It can't happen here your score is 10 and there your score is 10. Can't happen. What you have to do is that it's you plan, and I think that you have to play the game now, right? So you just have to play the game, but nothing else to be done. Each individual will have sort of different game plan. I'm just putting a number to you. I'm just saying that these two put together, you look at something like 25. How? I don't know. 50 days you have. If let's say if it is easier for you to, you have to focus on both. So sort of put that target, and I think things should work. That's sort of my story. That's an action plan. That's what we got to do. This is why am I putting 11? I think that we didn't change. This should be 11.
That's
Yep. So that's it.
I think very much. We have spoken about this. You spoke about the last time when you were here, and I think next what you mentioned today. If I were in their place, I would simply follow what you said. 45 days, minimum 6 hours, 300 hours. My job is done. I think that's how I would look at it, whatever stage of preparation I am. So, of course, if I'm starting just now, I cannot look forward to, and even for those who have started, first of all, stop worrying about that I have to be in the top 10. The target should be I have to get into NLS. For that, if I'm an All India candidate, I know there are 91 seats. I need to be there in the top 91. On the day of the paper, we can work it out. Here, boss, 1 ban sakta hai mera, 10 ban sakta hai. That's how I would look at it. So I think you don't need to do anything extraordinary. Follow the guidance. I think that's important. And this is the time where you do your consolidation, keep doing analysis. That's how I would look at it. One question I would like to take up here, Diptakshi, and Diptakshi, good that you have realized, and many people don't realize that, and this they do even in the actual examination. Now, please, guys, understand, in the CLAT and ALET examination, one of the biggest problem is you have to mark your answers using a pen, which means you cannot erase it. That's clear. Now, of course, this will prompt you to look at how you are going to mark the answers in the OMR. You darken the oval. Most of people, what they do is they wait for the last moment. Let me first mark it on the question paper, and then at the last, I'll transfer the answers as I darken the oval, actually. Now, what happens? It's a general scenario. Please understand, happens in every classroom where the exam is being conducted. The moment last 10 minutes will be left, you'll be still in the dilemma. Can I take 2 minutes more? Can I take 3 minutes more? I can solve a couple of more questions. I can increase my attempts. So that works for me, actually. And suddenly you don't even realize the invigilator is on your head. Hey, you have only 2 minutes. And this is where things will go wrong. So always ensure that you mark. And देखो simple सा बात है, you cannot have too many questions for review. If you have too many questions for review, which means you are not ready for the examination. Couple of questions, I understand. Maybe not more than 2 in any section should be marked for review. So wherever you have a doubt, mark it for review, just like you would be doing in an online examination. You have a tool. Here, put sub symbol, but ensure whenever you have the answer in your mind, you know this is the answer. You know that. Always transfer that to the OMR. और इसमें मुझे लगता है ना 1 मिनट 1.5 मिनट बचता भी है, क्योंकि you put that take, you don't do that, you come back, darken the oval, you actually spend more time. 120 question है, 100 भी attempt किया, 100 seconds तो extra दिया ना, so 1.5 minutes saved. So this is typically, and I have seen students committing mistakes. There have been queries coming back. Can you speak to consortium? We can't. We can't speak to consortium. They are not going to listen. They'll laugh after they'll hang the phone. So please be careful. Good that you have learned it at this point of time. Rishi, of course, I don't expect you are scoring 18.5. I should not have told this on this platform. So Jijo Rishi is from Mumbai itself. So, but then from this GK perspective,
I'm not seeing the question. What is the question?
no. He's the question is, I have got 18.25 in GK. Is that a good score?
Yeah, it's good.
So yeah, so I felt that 15 plus was still a good score in this mock,
Yeah.
considering how it could have been.
So
But
the story is, what is your GK plus quant? That is what I want to know. Individually GK में 18 plus and quant में 0 मतलब GK over. You are able to get 18 plus 10, fantastic. No, 28.
Pragya, logical video analysis will come tomorrow. I'm sure during the session you would have figured out he has not been keeping well, so he'll be giving the videos actually. So that's a promise.
Yeah.
He's already given English.
So
Actually,
I've given English, so I can't speak. My throat is.
I'm sure Pragya joined late. Otherwise, she could have definitely figured out. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll do a session. Point taken. But Salik sir has already done that. So there's a Tulika asking, can you do a session on Israel-Hamas entire conflict? I'll definitely do that. One more, I think the other ones, yeah. English section is becoming weaker for me. It used to be good. That's a question from S.
English section is weaker. See. It's not possible, na. So, it's like whatever skill that you had is whatever skill that you had. But I'm sure that the way in which you are sort of attempting or something has changed. Now, the very fact that you ask me this particular question and you don't know the answer is the bigger problem. So, if you know the problem, 75% of the problem gets solved. So, it basically tells me that what you should do now, chupcha. After the English section is done, redo the question. After the mock is done, redo the question once again without looking at the solution. Then you'll get answer. My feeling is that something would have changed. I think that it may even be because of some other section. Right? It could be something else. There could be million problems as to why your English score cannot. It cannot be your skill. Right? Inherent skill cannot. So it's like, for example, Virat Kohli is getting out. It's not because his skill has come down. कुछ तो वो गेम में वो जो गेम ठीक से खेला नहीं होगा ना वो particular game में. That's what you need to find out.
Okay, so I think we have covered almost every bit of question over here, and I think today I'm sure they do understand the importance of the next 45 days, and a lot of game-changing thoughts you presented, Jijo. So once again, thank you so much for joining today evening. I know you will be traveling next Wednesday, but we'll catch up after that for sure, actually. So, but we'll continue doing the analysis, guys. So stay tuned. Come back next week once again, and do keep watching the videos by Govind sir and Salik sir. They are covering everything. So it's and you should definitely watch them live, actually. So if your class is not clashing, because the in-class learning is always better than watching it later. Actually, you retain most of the time the information, actually. So that's what my take would be. And see you guys, the RTNLU finale happening on Sunday. You receive the links on Friday. So in your My Zone, do attend the RTNLU finale, the final part of the strategy session. And see you there on Saturday. So, chalo, all the best. Good night. Thanks, Jijo.
Yeah, good night.